So imagine it is, well, imagine it's a Tuesday afternoon in July.
Oh, the worst possible time.
Right. And you're in Phoenix, Arizona. It's like 115 degrees outside.
Oh, wow.
The asphalt in the parking lot is quite literally soft under your shoes. And then,
The AC gives out.
exactly, your commercial building's central AC just seizes up completely. You don't just have a maintenance problem at that point. You have a ticking clock.
You really do.
Because in exactly 2 hours, your retail store or your clinic or your office is going to become physically unshoppable and your daily revenue is just going to flatline.
Yeah, I mean, it is the exact moment every single facility manager dreads. And it's sort of the brutal irony of mechanical systems, right? They fail at the exact moment of maximum stress.
Always.
They don't break on a mild Tuesday in October. They seize up when the ambient temperature peaks and the compressors are just running at absolute maximum capacity.
Right. And so today's deep dive is all about the frantic, high-stakes maneuvering that happens the exact minute that compressor dies.
It's a fascinating world.
It really is. We are pulling from this incredible stack of strategy documents, operational briefing guides, and case studies from a company called 1Source Rentals.
Right.
And they specialize in this concept called climate continuity. So our mission today is sort of uncover the underlying science, the complex logistics, and just the raw strategy of how specialized temporary HVAC tech prevents a mechanical failure from turning into, well, a total business collapse.
Which it easily can.
Oh, totally. Because a central AC failure in a packed retail store is not just a nuisance. To me, it's the physical world's equivalent of a massive e-commerce website crashing right in the middle of a Black Friday rush.
That's a great way to put it.
Like every single minute you are offline, you are just bleeding money.
Yeah, that analogy perfectly captures the urgency. And in the commercial cooling industry, the formal term for that pleading period is the cooling gap.
The cooling gap, okay.
Right. So the cooling gap is the critical, just unforgiving window of time between the exact second your primary HVAC system fails and the moment you manage to reestablish a stable, controlled microclimate in that building.
Wow.
And during that gap, absolutely everything is on the line.
Right, because the ripple effects are so immediate. It's not just that people are sweating. Customer trust is basically evaporating.
Complete.
Sensitive server hardware might start thermal throttling, or worse, melting down, and employee safety becomes this massive legal and ethical liability.
Exactly. The longer that gap stays open, the closer you get to a mandated forced shutdown.
Yeah. And what fascinated me in the sources was this specific metric the industry uses to track the retail impact. They call it dwell time.
Ah, yeah. Dwell time is sort of the holy grail of retail metrics.
Okay.
It measures the exact duration a customer physically remains inside your environment. And the strategy documents highlight this direct, inescapable correlation between an optimal ambient temperature and a customer's dwell time.
Makes sense.
And critically, dwell time has a direct correlation with transaction volume.
Basically, if the store is 90 degrees, your customer is not casually browsing the aisles.
No, not at all.
Their brain has just shifted from shopping mode into escape mode.
Exactly. The psychology changes entirely. They abandon their carts, they leave, and honestly, worse than that, they might not return.
Because they remember it.
Right, because their lasting visceral memory of your brand is that it is fundamentally uncomfortable and, mismanaged.
Wow.
And closing the doors to fix the problem isn't much better. Like, if you close a warehouse, you lose operational time. If you lock the doors of a retail store in the middle of the day, you have a very public reputational crisis.
Which brings us to this incredible real-world case study from the 1Source Rentals briefing guides.
I love this one.
Yeah. So there's this national automotive parts distributor. They have a massive retail location, and their entire HVAC system completely fails right during peak operating hours.
The worst timing.
Literally. We're talking a line out the door, stress mechanics waiting for brake rotors, phones ringing off the hook, and the permanent repair contractor tells the manager they cannot source the replacement parts for 2 whole days.
Oh, man. 2 days in an unair-conditioned auto parts store in the summer, that is a death sentence for that week's revenue.
Right. So they call 1Source Rentals, and instead of just dropping off a few box fans, 1Source deploys this highly engineered turnkey solution using 6 portable cooling units.
Right.
And the documents state they achieved an invisible installation. Now, wait, let's pause here.
Sure.
how is that physically possible? I mean, if a store is packed shoulder to shoulder with mechanics and shoppers, you can't just wheel in 6 massive industrial metal boxes, run giant tubes everywhere, and like set this all up without causing a
Or
riot.
tripping hazards?
Right, tripping hazards or just totally disrupting the business you were supposedly trying to save.
Yeah.
Like, exactly how do you hide an industrial AC unit in plain sight?
So the secret lies in a highly structured approach that they call zoning.
Zone.
Yeah. The technicians don't just dump the equipment on the sales floor and plug it in. They act much more like tactical architects.
Okay, I like that.
First, they focus on discrete placement. For the customer-facing retail floors, they utilize the building's ceiling plenum.
Okay, let's clarify what a plenum is for the listener really quick. That's the architectural dead space above the drop ceiling, right?
Yes.
Where all the wires and pipes usually run.
Correct. It's the space where the building naturally breathes. So the technicians take the flexible exhaust ducting from these portable units, and they route the warm condenser air straight up into that ceiling plenum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the heat is vented completely out of sight. They physically tuck the hardware into service corridors against back exterior walls or strategically hide it behind large point-of-purchase displays.
So the retail customers just feel a sudden rush of cold air.
Exactly.
Oh.
They're completely blind to the machinery doing the actual work.
But the strategy documents emphasize that the real genius of this zoning strategy isn't just hiding the machines from the customers, it's how they manage the back-of-house operations, the employee stockrooms.
Yeah, prioritizing the back of house is actually the most critical safety decision they make. Think about the physical labor happening in an auto parts distributor.
Oh, yeah.
Employees are running back and forth carrying 50-pound truck batteries or heavy steel rotors in extreme heat. I mean, that is a massive OSHA safety liability.
That is a fast track to heat stroke.
Exactly. So by heavily spot cooling those specific stockrooms and receiving areas, they actively prevent employee heat stress.
Right.
They keep the workforce safe, moving fast and hydrated, all while the retail floor looks completely operational to the public.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, the emergency fix protects the brand's reputation because the chaos is essentially invisible.
I really love that concept, the invisible fix. But looking closely at the mechanics of this, it leads to a really profound physical problem. Well, in that automotive parts store, they had a drop ceiling. They had a plenum to swallow the hot air. But what if you don't?
Ah, right.
Like, what happens when the crisis is in a high-security server room at a bank? Or, a basement hospital laboratory with absolutely no windows, solid concrete walls, and literally no ceiling access whatsoever to vent the hot air.
Yeah, the industry calls that specific architectural nightmare a landlocked room.
Landlocked.
Yes, it is widely considered one of the absolute hardest engineering challenges in climate continuity.
Because, to use an analogy, a traditional portable AC is kind of like a vacuum cleaner,
Okay.
right? Like a vacuum sucks up dirt from the carpet, but to work, it has to blow the exhaust air out the back. A traditional air conditioner sucks up the thermal heat in a room, but it has to blow that hot exhaust air somewhere else.
Exactly.
So if you were trapped in a sealed, landlocked room and you can't vent that heat outside,
You're just moving hot air around the exact same room.
right, you're just fighting yourself.
Yeah, the laws of thermodynamics dictate that if you cannot physically relocate the thermal energy out of the space, you cannot lower the ambient temperature. You are just spinning your wheels.
Wow.
So for these lockdown environments, 1Source Rentals has to abandon traditional air-vented systems entirely.
Okay.
They deploy a totally different technology. Water-cooled units.
Water cooled.
Yeah, specifically the documents highlight their use of cold wave models.
I read about these and it's brilliant. Like, instead of venting heat into the air through thick, bulky foil ductwork, these units use a dedicated water source to basically absorb and carry away the thermal energy.
That's right.
You just connect the unit to a standard sink tap, a janitor's closet hookup, or a closed-loop water system in the building.
Yeah, because water is incredibly efficient at absorbing heat, far more so than air. The machine's heat exchanger transfers the ambient thermal energy from the hot server room directly into a water stream, and then the unit simply flushes that hot water safely down a standard drain line.
You know what that sounds like? It's exactly like a liquid-cooled gaming PC.
Yes. Perfect comparison.
Like, high-end computers doing massive processing don't rely on giant, noisy fans blowing hot air in your face. They silently absorb the heat from the processor into a liquid loop and just pump it away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the stakes for that gaming PC approach are incredibly high when we talk about enterprise business.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, think about a sprawling data center. Security protocols and fire suppression systems dictate that you cannot simply prop open a secure server room door or knock a hole in a firewall to run a temporary exhaust duct.
Obviously not.
So the water-cooled unit solves the architectural constraint completely silently, maintaining the total integrity of the room.
That's wild. And not only that, but the cold wave units have integrated self-diagnostic controls,
Yes.
which means before a technician even unzips their tool bag, the machine's onboard computer can actively identify if there's a pressure drop or like a flow rate issue with the incoming water line. It just takes all the guesswork out of the installation and ensures really proactive troubleshooting.
And that kind of diagnostic capability drastically compresses the cooling gap we talked about earlier.
Okay, so we've conquered the sealed, landlocked interior room using water. But let's flip the script to the absolute opposite extreme.
Okay.
We have a case study here involving an open outdoor space. How on earth do you cool a wide open loading dock, an outdoor event venue, or an industrial bay where there are literally no walls to trap the cold air?
It's tough.
You can't air condition the outdoors.
Oh, you certainly can't do it with refrigerated, compressor-based air. It would require astronomical amounts of electricity, and the conditioned air would just instantly dissipate into the atmosphere.
Right.
So for unconditioned wide-open spaces, especially in the arid western United States like Arizona, Colorado, and Utah, you have to pivot to a completely different physical mechanism, the evaporative cooler.
Now, there's a claim in these strategy documents that sounds like total marketing hyperbole. They call it the 33-degree miracle. And honestly, when you say evaporative cooling to the average person, it sounds a whole lot like an old-school swamp cooler.
Oh, sure.
You know, those clunky, mildew-smelling boxes from the 1980s that just made everything feel sticky and muggy. Are these really powerful enough to protect an industrial workforce doing heavy labor?
The skepticism is completely warranted, honestly, but we have to mentally separate the cheap residential swamp cooler from these massive industrial-scale powerhouses.
Okay.
These machines are not just blowing a light mist over a fan. They are leveraging the principles of latent heat and phase change to manipulate massive volumes of air.
Let's unpack that mechanism. Because on paper, dropping the temperature by 33 degrees using just water and a fan sounds like actual magic.
It's purely the physics of evaporation. When hot, bone-dry desert air is pulled forcefully through the thick, water-saturated cooling pads inside the unit,
Okay.
the water transforms from a liquid into a gas. And that specific phase change physically pulls heat energy right out of the air. It is the exact same biological reason you shiver when you step out of a swimming pool and a breeze hits your wet skin.
Mm.
The evaporating water literally steals your body heat.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. So the machine is essentially sweating on behalf of the environment.
Precisely. And in an industrial setting, deploying this technology isn't about luxury at all. It is an absolute necessity.
Right.
If you have workers loading semi-trucks on an asphalt dock in 115-degree heat, the radiant heat from the pavement is pushing their core body temperatures to highly dangerous levels.
Definitely.
The industrial evaporative cooler forcefully drops the ambient temperature in their immediate workspace by 30 degrees or more. It keeps them safe, it keeps their cognitive function sharp, and honestly, it prevents catastrophic medical emergencies on the clock.
And the logistics of running these are wild, too. The sources point out that these high-efficiency units feature massive internal water reservoirs that provide up to 10 hours of uninterrupted cooling.
Yeah, that's huge.
Which is a huge detail for a facility manager, because it means you don't have to pay an employee to stand there and refill the unit with a bucket every hour.
Right.
And more importantly, you don't need a permanent pressurized water hose tethered to the machine, snaking across a busy loading dock and creating this massive tripping hazard for forklifts.
Exactly. You fill the reservoir before the morning shift begins, and the machine autonomously protects the workforce for the entire workday. However, the operational success of this technology is strictly governed by geography.
Right. The documents make a very stark point about environmental variables here. Evaporative cooling only works if the air is basically hungry for moisture.
Exactly. It relies entirely on the ambient air being dry enough to absorb the evaporating water.
Yeah.
So in Phoenix, Denver, or Salt Lake City, it is a miracle machine.
Right.
But if you take that exact same high-performance unit and ship it to a highly humid climate, like Houston or Miami in July,
It would be totally useless.
completely, it would just move hot, wet air around. Because the atmosphere in Houston is already saturated with moisture. It cannot accept any more water vapor, So the phase change cannot occur and the heat is not extracted.
Wow.
That's why one-source rentals emphasizes that climate continuity isn't just about renting equipment, it's about expertly matching the specific thermodynamic technology to the unique environmental variables of the location.
So far, we've explored how to secretly save a retail floor, how to cool a landlocked bank vault with water, and how to protect a loading dock using phase change physics.
Right.
But a massive 15-story hospital or a sprawling corporate campus doesn't run on individual spot coolers.
No, it does not.
When the central grid of a massive commercial complex dies, you are suddenly fighting a multi-story thermodynamic crisis. The sheer scale of the equipment required just changes dramatically.
Oh, absolutely. Moving from spot cooling to whole building remediation introduces an entirely new tier of logistical nightmares.
I can imagine.
And this is where the true engineering capabilities of a company like 1Source Rentals are really tested. We are talking about deploying high-capacity systems, massive 12-ton to 25-ton horizontal and vertical cooling units.
25 tons of cooling capacity? That is staggering.
It's massive.
Because a standard home AC unit is maybe, what, 3 to 5 tons?
At most, yeah.
How do you even maneuver a piece of equipment that size into place during an emergency? We are talking about machines that weigh thousands of pounds.
The engineering for portability on these high-capacity units is brilliant, actually.
Okay.
Despite their massive footprint and weight, they're specifically built to navigate the chaotic environments of urban emergencies. They're equipped with heavy-duty locking casters for rolling down tight service alleyways.
Nice.
They feature integrated forklift pockets, so warehouse equipment can offload them instantly from a flatbed truck without needing specialized rigging.
And the briefing guides mention they even have lifting lugs built directly into the steel frame?
Yes, for when the only viable position for the temporary unit is literally on the roof of the building.
Oh, wow.
So the city might close a lane of traffic. A crane hooks directly into those integrated lugs and just hoists thousands of pounds of cooling power straight up the side of a skyscraper.
That is bonkers.
It is. But it ensures that the required thermal capacity can be injected exactly where the central system failed, regardless of how hostile the physical architecture is.
And there's also a major environmental and compliance angle to these massive machines.
Oh, absolutely.
The documents note that these modern 12-ton and 25-ton units utilize R410A refrigerant. And the specific detail here is that R410A has an ozone depletion potential, an ODP, of absolute 0.
Right.
Which matters immensely to a facility manager. It means if a high-pressure line accidentally snaps and leaks during a frantic emergency installation, you haven't just created an EPA environmental disaster on top of your existing business crisis.
Exactly. It meets strict corporate sustainability mandates. But the hardware itself, no matter how environmentally friendly or powerful, is really only half the equation.
Right, and this is the part of the strategy documents that really struck me. A 25-ton air conditioning unit is completely useless if you don't have the massive electrical voltage required to actually turn the compressors over.
Very true.
If the building's power grid is compromised, or if the temporary system draws more electricity than the facility's breakers can safely handle, you literally just have a giant heavy metal box sitting in your alleyway.
Which brings us to the core, unifying philosophy of 1Source Rentals.
The ecosystem.
The ecosystem, exactly. You cannot view commercial climate control in isolation. Cooling, heating, power generation, and fuel supply are deeply interconnected systems.
Right.
If one pillar collapses, the entire microclimate collapses.
So if you rent a 25-ton air conditioner, you are fundamentally relying on a broader ecosystem to keep it alive.
Yes. 1Source tackles the entire integration. When they deploy high-capacity cooling, they simultaneously deploy heavy-duty temporary power generators that are perfectly matched to the immense electrical draw of the AC units.
That makes total sense.
But a diesel generator is just a useless engine without a constant supply of combustible fuel. So the ecosystem expands to include comprehensive fuel delivery services.
And the sheer scale of the fuel logistics blew my mind.
It's wild.
The operational guides detail how they manage everything from a modest 20-gallon drop for a small spot generator all the way up to 10,000-plus gallon refills for massive power plants.
Yeah.
At that scale, you aren't just renting an air conditioner anymore. You are essentially establishing a rogue, off-grid power plant in a commercial alleyway.
It's basically a small utility company at that point. And managing that off-grid power plant requires constant logistical oversight. They deliver 10,000 gallons of propane, diesel, and critically, DEF, diesel exhaust fluid.
Let's clarify DCF for the listener real quick, because that's a crucial regulatory detail. Modern heavy-duty diesel generators are legally required to use DF to break down harmful nitrogen oxide emissions. If a generator runs out of DF, the onboard computer will literally shut the engine down to comply with federal emissions standards.
Exactly right. So 1Source Rentals actively tracks the consumption rates of both the fuel and the DF, and they schedule proactive replenishment drops before the tanks ever run dry.
Wow.
It is a true set and protect mindset. You establish the microclimate, and the synchronized ecosystem ensures absolute zero downtime.
Hearing all of this, I mean, the logistics of cranes, hoisting equipment, 25-ton refrigeration units, deploying off-grid generators, scheduling 10,000-gallon diesel drops.
Yeah.
The immediate question any business owner is going to have is the cost. Isn't deploying this kind of massive military-style logistical operation just prohibitively expensive?
Well, it's the ultimate calculation every facility manager has to make, right? The upfront rental costs versus the value of business continuity. Let's look at the baseline numbers the documents provide. If you have a small office, a clinic, or a server closet, OneSource offers mini coolers, like 6,000 BTU units, that start at just $30 a day.
Wow.
Even the larger 10,000 BTU models start at $60 a day.
$30 a day, that is literally less than a manager might spend buying coffee for their team.
Exactly. Now compare that $30 a day, or even the significantly higher day rate of a massive industrial 25-ton unit, against the staggering, catastrophic financial hemorrhage of a forced shutdown.
Yeah.
If your retail store closes its doors for 48 hours waiting on parts, what is the exact dollar amount of your lost transaction revenue?
Tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands.
Easily. What is the long-term cost of the reputational damage when loyal customers arrive to lock doors on a weekend? What is the cost of employee turnover or workers' compensation claims if you force your staff to physically labor in 100-degree heat?
When you look at the math from that perspective, it's not a maintenance expense at all. It's an incredibly affordable operational insurance policy.
It is the calculated cost of continuity. The modern business world is shifting rapidly from a mindset of reactive repair.
Waiting for things to break and panicking.
Right. They're shifting to strategic continuity planning. You don't wait for the disaster to figure out what your options are.
Yeah.
You have the rental partner vetted, the logistical plan drawn up, and the number ready on speed dial so that the cooling gap is closed almost immediately.
And the documents we reviewed today really highlight that shift. We started this deep dive exploring the sheer panic of a Tuesday afternoon AC failure in 115-degree heat.
Yep.
But we've unpacked how that cooling gap absolutely does not have to be a death sentence for your daily revenue. We've seen the ingenuity of secretly bridging that gap in a retail store, using the ceiling plenum for an invisible installation.
Right.
We've explored the thermodynamics of solving the landlocked server room with silent, water-cooled, cold wave systems.
We've seen the phase change physics behind deploying a 33-degree evaporative cooler on an outdoor loading dock to ensure OSHA safety compliance.
Right. All the way up to navigating the extreme logistics of those massive 25-ton lifesavers, powered by synchronized generators and 10,000-gallon fuel drops to keep entire high-rise buildings alive.
It's a lot.
The sheer scale of the technology is incredible, but honestly, the proactive strategy behind it is what ultimately saves the business.
And that strategic 24/7 emergency response capability is exactly what OneSource Rentals provides to the industry.
So to you listening, the takeaway here is pretty clear. Do not wait until you are literally sweating in your office to figure out how to cool your building.
Please don't.
You need to be proactive and build your own emergency climate continuity plan today. The documents we reviewed today are from 1Source Rentals, and they handle these exact high-stakes emergencies. If you want to see how the strategy looks in practice, or if you're in their region and need to build a plan, you can call their Phoenix regional office right now at 480-263-1119. Or check them out online. Go to onesourcerentals.com, visit their Arizona location page, or look up their Google business profile. Just please, get the number saved in your phone before the compressor dies.
Because hoping the mechanical system holds out through the summer is not a valid operational strategy. And I actually want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Okay.
Something looking toward the broader future of commercial real estate. We know that extreme weather events are statistically becoming more frequent.
For sure.
Average summer temperatures are climbing globally, pushing existing infrastructure far beyond its original design specs.
Yeah, unpredictable, prolonged heat waves are rapidly becoming the new operational norm.
Exactly. So taking that a step further, As these severe thermal events continue to stress commercial infrastructure to the absolute breaking point, will formal climate continuity plans soon become a mandatory, legally binding requirement for commercial business insurance policies?
Oh, wow.
Just like having an inspected fire sprinkler system, will insurers soon demand documented proof that you can keep your commercial building thermally stable and your employees safe during a catastrophic central system failure?
That is a really fascinating question. The baseline threshold for what is considered required risk management is definitely shifting.
The landscape is changing fast, so ask yourself, if your commercial building's primary cooling environment permanently fails tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, are you operating on blind hope or do you have a plan?
You never want to find out the hard way. Stay cool out there, everyone.